All right, Larry Krueger here at Levi's Stadium on a Wednesday with a full recap of everything that happened in Ninerland on this Wednesday. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Go get some brisket chili. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Krug sent you. Also, this video is brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, along the Monterey Peninsula. Go say hi to my friend Anthony Catania. He's the owner, and he's there at 831-521-5264. Thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles for being a sponsor of The Krug Show. All right, let's talk about the day that was down here in Santa Clara on a Wednesday as the Niners getting ready to board the bird at the end of the week and fly across country to take on the Miami Dolphins. A reuniting of Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDaniel, his former offensive coach. And two football teams that are both 6-8. And, whoever loses this game is going to get draft priority over the other. Niners still have a mathematical chance of making the playoffs, but it's just that, a mathematical chance. There really is no chance for the Niners to make the postseason. Let's talk about all the stories that touched the Niners or were surrounding the Niners today. Now, ESPN's Dan Graziano, who's a really good writer, says that Brock Purdy, of all the players in the league, has the most at stake in the season's final 3 games, which is interesting because, it doesn't sound like maybe that's the national perspective, but the local perspective is that Brock is going to get a big money contract extension from the Niners, that the Niners want to extend him this offseason. He's eligible for a contract extension as soon as the season comes to an end. He was the last pick in the 2022 draft, and he has way outperformed his contract. And now the question is, what will the Niners pay him? Can they get on the same page? Will Brock's representatives demand $60 to $65 million? Will the Niners be willing to pay that? Will the Niners offer him, $50 million? I believe he's worth $50 million in the market. That, to me, is fair market value. We'll see how that all shakes out. There's no question that Purdy's regressed in 2024. How much of that is his weapons and his line and the players around him? I would say at least some of his regression is due to the regression of Debo, the regression of CMC, the regression of Ayuk, the regression of this offensive line. Those things all impact Brock Purdy for sure, and any quarterback would be impacted by that. So he has regressed. His accuracy numbers have backslid. His on-target percentage from 2023 is down 5% it's down 5% from 2023. His catchable percentage rate is down 2.5% from last year. And the question is, does he deserve top-tier money? And I think that he does. Now, 5 NFL teams, Miami, Detroit, Carolina, Dallas, and Jacksonville, all paid their quarterbacks more than 20% of the team's salary cap recently. But the Niners are unique because they've got 9 returning starters making between $15 million and $34 million a year. So it's going to be very, very challenging for the 49ers to give Brock Purdy a big contract and still maintain the exact same roster as they've enjoyed up to this point. Purdy is second in the NFL this year in scramble yards. His O-line is below average, and the Niners' offensive line has allowed the 7th highest quarterback pressure rate of any team in the league, according to Next Gen Stats. Brock Purdy is pressured on 37.8% of his dropbacks. And when the Niners decide they want to pay Purdy or not, they're going to have, at the end of the season, they'll have a 35-game window of which to evaluate him. So are they really going to, put all their evaluation into the last 3 games when the Niners are eliminated, or are they going to look at the 35 games plus that he's played here? I think it's more likely they're going to look at the bulk of the entirety of his work when they're deciding what to offer him and hammering out this contract. Purdy currently ranks 7th as far as the longest. As far as holding the ball the longest, he holds the ball on an average of 3.05 seconds. The longest it takes on average to throw. Last year it was 2.7. This year it's 3.05. He's scrambling more. He's holding the ball longer. Why? Are his receivers not getting open, right out of the chute? I think there's probably some truth to that as well. Pro Football Focus, by the way, says the Niner offensive line has actually improved this year. So this is where I don't necessarily always agree with Pro Football Focus. Last year they had the Niners O-line ranked 24th. This year they have them as the 12th best in pass protection this year. Are they better than they were last year, or is Brock Purdy just running more, holding the ball longer, and thus the stats kind of show that it makes it look like the O-line's better than it is? As far as injuries today, Trent Williams was out. He's still battling that ankle, and there's some debate whether Trent's going to play at all the rest of the year. Kyle was asked about that. He said, hey, if he can play, he will. But we don't know if he can play, and he obviously can't play this week because he's out. Isaac Guerendo's got a hamstring injury that he hurt in the game. He was not in practice today. Nick Bosa, Jalen Moore, Malik Mustafa, Dre Greenlaw, Nick Zakelj were all limited in practice. Zakelj with the illness, Greenlaw with he's got a number of injuries, really. He's got multiple injuries. Mustafa's got the chest. Jalen Moore, I believe, is a knee. Bosa's a hip and an oblique. Greenlaw, of course, is coming off the Achilles, and then he maybe had some knee pain in this game, so he was limited today as well. Didn't get a chance to catch up today with Curtis Robinson, the Walter Payton Man of the Year award candidate for the 49ers, but we hope to later in the week. Kyle was asked about Curtis Robinson and just, talked about what a great person he is and how he's one of his favorite guys on the team. He was, it's funny, Kyle was asked how he felt when he had that conversation with Mike McDaniel, when McDaniel told him, hey man, I'm leaving, I'm going to take the Dolphins job. And he said, I was happy for Mike, I was happy for his wife. He's a little quirky, but he's a good dude, and he's a great football coach. So Kyle really has a lot of good things to say about McDaniel. Kyle was asked about DeAndre Campbell and how the team handled the news of his departure, and Kyle said he thought the team handled it awesome, that they spoke from the heart, that they didn't go overboard, but that they made it perfectly clear that he was not welcome here any longer. Kyle was asked about how well Greenlaw and Afonga played in their first game back after a long time, and he said, hey, look, man, it's awesome. I mean, these guys played well. They showed no rust. That's the caliber of play we've come to expect from Greenlaw and Afonga. He was asked about Deebo Samuel, and he says, I don't think Deebo has slowed down. And, Kyle's very, very loyal to Deebo. He loves Deebo. There's plenty of statistics that you can look at that will tell you that Deebo has indeed slowed down. But Kyle didn't want to cop to that. He says, I don't think Deebo has slowed down. He was asked about Ricky Pearsall, who's had 2 catches and 107 routes run, and over the last 5 games, he says Ricky's doing a hell of a job. Take it for whatever it's worth. I asked Kyle if he felt like, what was the issue with they haven't been able to run the ball since the bye week. And they threw the ball 31 times in this last game in the rain and 19 runs. Why was it not 31 runs and 19 passes? Well, the answer is they're not running it well. So I asked Kyle, why are you guys not running it well since the bye week? And he said, thought it was a number of things. He said ultimately, we're not blocking clean enough up front. He's like, we're just not blocking well enough up front. There are other factors. He said the biggest factor he thinks is just that the game, tempo and the way the game went, there weren't a lot of, opportunities to run. But, if you're running the ball 19 times and passing it 31 times on a wet night when your quarterback doesn't handle a wet football and you're going up against the 28th rated run D, there's probably reasons. And the reasons are they're not running it well. They're not opening run holes. They've been less than 4 yards a carry in like 5 games since the bye week. Against Green Bay, they were under 4 yards a carry. I think might have been under 3 yards a carry, to be completely honest. I think they were 2.8 a carry. The big difference from last year to this year is last year you had CMC, Ayuk, and Deebo, and they were combining for 40 touchdowns. This year that trio has 2, and the offense is felt the brunt of it. Big news today, the Colts claimed Ambry Thomas off waivers, so now the Colts have both Samuel Womack III and Ambry Thomas, 2 ex-corners. Let's hear from Kyle Shanahan. I asked him about the Purdy turnover. And when I watched the All-22, what was really clear is that the coverage was all set deep, and they were giving the 49ers and Brock Purdy 3 underneath receivers. Purdy, instead of, even though it was second down and the game wasn't on the line, he forced that ball down the field, and he did it in the face of rush. And, I asked Kyle about it. I said, hey, would you like him to check it down a little bit more? He seems extremely aggressive. Kyle kind of said, I don't think Brock's extremely aggressive. He doesn't throw it into double teams that often and this and that. But it was undeniable. I mean, go look at that play and tell me that Brock Purdy's not over aggressive. He took a shot with the season on the line and floated the ball blindly down the field to Juwan Jennings. Now, Kyle said, hey, in an ideal world, Jennings would have broken that pass up and they would have lived to fight another down. But the bottom line is you had 3 guys open underneath. Take your check down. And, and Kyle said he would have liked Purdy to have taken the check down on that play. Instead, he threw an interception. It was the game. It was the season. It was everything all wrapped into one. So there's no question that Brock's tendency is to be aggressive. It's hilarious that people called him dink and dunk because he's the opposite of that. He's Brett Favre. He's a riverboat gambler. If he's got a guy open short, a guy open intermediate, and a guy open deep, he's going deep every time. So he's just got to start to think a little more clearly in that situation. There's no reason to put the entire season on the line right there. There was no reason to risk that kind of a pass. It wasn't 4th down. It wasn't even 3rd down. It was a 2nd down pass play. You were in field goal range. Take the fucking check down. I mean, my God, take the check down and live to fight another day. Instead, no, he's playing cowboy hero ball and going up top and getting it picked. And that was a huge turnover. So Kyle disagreed that Purdy's over aggressive, but he is. And he did agree that he would have liked Purdy to have taken the check down, which is obvious because the check down was there. And it wasn't just a check down. He had 3 guys there he could have checked it down to. And instead he went up top and got it picked. End of game, end of season. Thanks for coming. So there you go. He was asked about Jacob Cowing today. He says, he's getting closer to getting some more run as a wide receiver. And let's hear, by the way, from Kyle. I asked him the question. Let's hear the audio. We actually have the audio. Here's Kyle answering my question on Brock Purdy. I said, hey, man, Brock's over-aggressive. How do you coach him out of that and get him to check it down? And Kyle gave me a pretty expansive answer. Here's what he had to say. Purdy's turnover, it seemed like there was 3 guys. It seemed like they were playing deep and all 3 guys were open underneath. What was the coaching point there? And can you coach him out of this extreme aggressiveness that he kind of plays with? Take that check down.
Yeah, I don't think Brock's an extreme aggressive guy in terms of, you guys don't see him throw a lot of picks. He doesn't throw into double coverage much. When it's single safety, you want to hold the middle third player and throw a double move on the outside corner. You'd love to be able to check whether he's got a chance or not. But when he did look out there, the guy squatted, and then he bumped him, which is ICT. You can't hit him 12 yards down the field, which stopped Juwan. And then he's got a pass rush coming at him. So it's really easy to say with the clicker in our hand and stuff when he's not on top. But to hold a safety and then look out there, see a guy at a dead stop, and then have a 2 technique coming right at you, he's going to let that go. And what you coach, so in the heat of battle, I always tell the receivers, worst case scenario in situations like that is offensive PI. It's never a pick. I don't care if you have to tackle the guy. So the first thing I look at is, does Juwan stop on the play? Because he's got to protect Brock, and so we can at least survive it and have a chance to overcome the penalty. And he couldn't get to it. Once he stopped him there at the 12-yard spot, couldn't catch back up. And, yeah, I'd love Brock to check it down, but the protection's got to be a little bit better for him to see all that. And the corner did stop, so it was just an unfortunate play. All
right, there you go. Little Kyle Shanahan right there. The other, I thought, interesting soundbite today was the team, Kyle was asked about DeAndre Campbell, and he said the team, the Campbell wasn't their first choice. We know Eric Kendricks was. But he also said Campbell wasn't his second choice, and it obviously just didn't work out. Here's Kyle on DeAndre Campbell.
It's easy to second guess now, but, DeAndre last year on social media said he was done playing through injuries with the Packers, and then that released him. He ripped it with his staff and everything. Do you guys have any hesitation? Is this guy going to be a fit in our culture?
Yeah, of course. We look into all that. It was tough losing Dre. We knew we were going to need a starting caliber linebacker. And we had 2 guys that we thought we had committed that we lost in free agency. And then another guy got cut after that and became available. I was with DeAndre his rookie year in Atlanta, so I knew what he was capable of. Not that I was real close or anything with the defensive guys, being the offensive coordinator there and everything. But I know we liked him in that building. I know a lot of guys who had coached him who had been good, and we obviously made a mistake. But it's not something that you don't look into. You look into everything, and you weigh the risk and reward of stuff. You weigh the situations that you have, and what decisions you can make in terms of the options. And by no means was it our first option, but at the time, with what went down, we thought it was our best option, and it didn't work out.
All right, a little Kyle Shanahan there on DeAndre Campbell. Couple last thoughts. Dre Greenlaw talked at his locker, and Kyle was asked about Dre a little bit, and said that Dre felt a little tight in the third quarter, so they didn't want to put him back out there, but that he's had a good recovery. He's feeling good. He was feeling good enough to be limited in practice today, and he's going to go. He's going to go Sunday against the Dolphins for sure. So that was pretty much the long and the short of it. Down here in Santa Clara, the Niners getting ready to play a game that doesn't have a whole lot of meaning, but they want to make sure that they finish this season playing good football. They want to get something out of these last 3 games. I expect the Niners to show up and play. The one thing, a lot of people say, well, is Shanahan lost the locker room? Shanahan has absolutely not lost the locker room, and I think you're going to see it in these final 3 games. These guys play hard. Do they play hard for him? I don't know, but they play hard, and they show up and they bring it consistently. When, to me, when you want to question a coach, you can question his decisions, and you can question how hard his team plays. You can question Kyle's decisions and some of the things that have happened this year. You can't question how hard his team plays. His team plays hard. Do they play hard for him? Do they play hard for each other? Do they play hard because it's the NFL and anybody could be cut at any moment? I don't know why they play hard, but they do play hard. And I think you're going to see that in the final 3 games of this season. All right, that does it for the update. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles for sponsoring this video. Thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show. Approaching 53,000 subs on YouTube. Thanks to you guys. Thanks for supporting the channel.